Hi everybody, and thank you for tuning in. It's Yasmin Boland here, coming to you live and direct from my guest room, which has now become the meditation room and the Facebook Live and Instagram Live daily message broadcasting room as well. How is everybody today? I'm actually feeling much better today. How about you? I think actually I was thinking about it. So I think what happened was we had the full moon. That was pretty intense. Then we had that Mercury square Mars. And now it's just a bit calmer. But there is news in the skies today, and that's what I want to tell you about today. So I'm going to tell you about that. I might just do one chant for Lakshmi, which is Lakshmi being the Hindu goddess of love, because what's going on is about love. And I'll do a card. So there you go. If you have a question, just put it in the comments. I'll try and answer it as I go. So let's talk about what is happening today, which you probably know by now if you've been on my page or any other astrologer's page, because it's kind of a rare thing. We have the planet of love, Venus, going backwards today, or appearing to go backwards. Now, you probably know that Mercury retrograde happens around about up to 4 times a year. Okay, so up to 4 times a year, we get Mercury retrograde, and that's a time to. Mercury is the planet of the mind. Okay, so it's a time to rethink, review, re-edit, and all that. It's actually really good if you're editing a book at all. If your Mercury retrograde is great for that. Although it's a bit of a confusing time. But by the same token, in fact, Venus goes backwards as well, but much less often. So Mercury goes backwards up to 4 times a year, whereas Venus goes back. So I'm just going to say hi on the comments because I can't see your Facebook comments. I can see the Instagram ones. Venus goes backwards only every 18 months. And in fact, the only planet that goes retrograde less than Venus is Mars, which goes retrograde every 2 years. All the other planets go backwards on a regular basis, or appear to, and apart from, of course, the sun and the moon, which are actually not planets, we call them luminaries. So what does it mean when Venus starts to go backwards, especially when it's starting to go backwards square to Neptune like it's doing right now? I mean, essentially, it's a time where we are going to start to turn inwards a little bit in terms of our relationships, in terms of how we relate to other people, how we relate to cash, because Venus has an abundance element to it. And it's really, I think, my favorite word for Venus retrograde is re-evaluation. Re-evaluation, because Venus, among other things, Venus, just regular Venus, is about love, pleasure, sensuality, or caresses, I should say, perfume, anything that is kind of soft and gentle and feminine and pleasurable. And I don't know if you were watching yesterday, you would have seen that amazing moment where I talked about this for like 20 minutes and then picked a card and we got Venus Aphrodite. I mean, what were the chances of that? I'm still happy about that. So now, values is a very Venus thing, okay? What you care about, what matters to you, what you have in your heart, and what you value, and the price you put on things as well. So Venus retrograde, my favorite word is re-evaluation. Re-evaluation. So that's what we're really going to be doing during this cycle, re-evaluating. Okay, so re-evaluating our relationships, re-evaluating our financial situation, re-evaluating how we feel about X, Y, Z and A, B, C. Now, because we're all in lockdown, I think it's quite clear one of the main ways that this is going to play out. And it's going to be about re-evaluating our lives. Full stop. Because what's happened? Like, we have all had weeks, months at home. Just either by ourselves, you know, with the cat, with the dog, or if we're lucky, with a family that we love, you know. And a lot of people, well, for a start, a lot of people are working from home for the very first time. Now, I might be a bit biased in this. I've been working from home for about, 20 years, and I love it. I would not have it any other way. Like the fact that I get up and get dressed for these messages every day, well, normally I don't. Excuse me. It's actually been really good for me to start to get dressed every morning, because I'm quite often to be found hanging around in my PJs if I've got nothing, if I don't have to go out that day. And it's actually quite good to get started. But working from home in your PJs, if that turns you on, is just one of the many, many wonderful things about working from home. Not going on the tube or the bus or public transport every morning is one of the great things about working from home. Not having to deal with office politics. That was something that always got me when I used to work in offices. Not having to deal with that. That's really one of the advantages of working from home. There are so many advantages to working from home. And I think that one of the things that a lot of people, and let me know in the comments if you're one of them, I think one of the things that people are going to be reevaluating is, do I actually want to go to work in an office anymore? Like, do I really want to do that? I found out I can work from home. I love it. A lot of people are going to come out of this cycle. And so Venus retrograde is a time when you will reevaluate that. Some people might even say, you know what, I'm reevaluating my entire career, because now I've had 6 weeks at home. I've realized that, I actually want to do X, Y, Z instead of ABC, So, and there's also going to be reevaluation. There's always reevaluation of relationships when Venus is going backwards. Now, it can be a time where you feel a bit detached from your partner. Now, again, obviously, there are going to be some people who that is literally happening for right now because of the lockdown. I had an email this morning from a reader who was saying that she and her partner have had to actually be separate over this lockdown period. One of the reasons being that her partner's son has cystic fibrosis, and they just couldn't introduce anyone into the household because of the risks associated. And so she and her boyfriend have spent all this time apart. They're having daily Zoom chats and all that, but they are literally apart. There are going to be other people who've ended up being isolated and not having realized how long this was going to go on for. And, or else it can be someone you actually live with, but there'll be a detachment. Maybe you've kind of had so much of each other these past few weeks, you need a bit of distance. Venus retrograde, if you can imagine it, think of it like this. When you have distance from someone, even if you're cooped up, if you have mental distance or emotional distance, it actually gives you a chance to step back and do what? Reevaluate, reevaluate. And one of the big things that can happen with Venus retrograde as well is that you reevaluate a relationship and you realize you've been taking someone for granted. It doesn't have to be you're going to sit back and reevaluate your relationship and come out thinking, oh yeah, I don't really want that relationship anymore. Of course, some people are going to do that. And of course, Venus retrograde in lockdown is going to have that effect on some people. Some people are going to go, you know what, like this lockdown has shown me all the cracks in our relationship. If you're someone who maybe you live with your partner and you only used to see each other for 10 minutes in the morning and an hour and a half at night, and suddenly you're spending 24/7 together, it is possible that cracks you didn't know that were in the relationship are there, and that's again a Venus retrograde. A Venus retrograde thing is to reevaluate. And of course there is the thing of some people are going to be apart and they're actually going to realize how much they actually love each other, like the separation. And the Venus retrograde is going to help them to go, you know what? I didn't know how much I love that person until I couldn't see them anymore. In fact, that actually happened with me and my husband. I already knew that I was, crazy about him, but we met in Paris. And it wasn't until we met in the July and we kind of, things sort of went from there, and by October it was all on for young and old. And then by December, I hopped on a plane to Australia for Christmas to go and see my family. And my husband, Olivier, took me to the airport and it was you know, the Paris Charles de Gaulle airport, Paris Charles de Gaulle, and you know, if you've ever been there, they have those big plastic sort of people movers. So it's like a, you know, it's a travelator, but it's got a big plastic tube around it. I don't know if you've seen them in the Paris airport. Anyway, he always says that it wasn't until that very moment, he's just joined. Hi, darling, I'm talking about you. It wasn't until that very moment when I got into the tube, the travelator, and went up off towards my plane to Australia, he went, oh my God, I've just realised she's the one. I'm going to miss her so much, etc., etc., etc. And so he actually came out to visit me in Australia, and the rest is history. So yeah, so you know, and honestly, I don't know if Venus was retrograde or not then, but Venus retrograde kind of puts that condition on people, and so does the lockdown. It's like realizing, reevaluating, and realizing I actually care for this person much more than I thought I did, you know. And I know for some of you who are missing your ex, or you're being contacted by an ex, again, that comes because people are doing the inner work and thinking, actually, what really matters to me? You know, that relationship actually mattered to me more than I realized, which is why reconciliation with exes is, you know, more likely under Venus retrograde. You know, but it can go either way. As I said, it can also be the cycle that shows up all the cracks in your relationship, or the fact that, oh my gosh, we actually don't have anything to talk about now that we've got 24 hours a day together, you know, or you know, we don't get on as well as I thought we did, or whatever. And of course there's frustration as well, so don't be too quick to judge your relationship. Of course people are feeling a bit at the moment with the lockdown. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. So Venus retrograde happens every 18 months. And it lasts for about 40 days. Venus is the planet of love and abundance. We talked about it yesterday, and Venus Aphrodite turned up. Very happy about that. I feel like that was such an affirmation that you know, just of the whole goddess thing, especially because I'm doing all my chanting to goddess Kali. It's just lovely to have that affirmation with the goddesses. And of course, by the way, if you want to learn more about Venus retrograde, I do have the free course. I've linked to it on Facebook, moonmessages.com/VenusRx, for RX is shorthand for retrograde, moonmessages.com, VenusRx. It's free. And I hope it helps you to understand this cycle, and it will actually help you to understand this cycle, because the second video is all about understanding where Venus is taking place, Venus retrograde is taking place for you. So yeah, so I wanted to kind of go into that a little bit today, and I just finished this little Venus retrograde bit by saying it's really important to understand that, you know, anything like this, it's about the inner work that you do. I mean, there can be things which are kind of like external, like there may be delays in money because Venus is the planet of abundance. It's going backwards, so it's not reaching where it otherwise would have reached as soon as it would have reached it. So there's going to be people who are, you know, waiting for money. Money's delayed. They're not getting the money they wanted. There can also be people who actually thought they weren't going to get paid. This has actually just happened to us, who thought, well, I'm not sure I'm going to get that money. And then bang, it comes. So that's cool too. So we'll talk more about Venus retrograde as the cycle unfolds. Unfortunately, I can't see your comments on Facebook, but let me know, you know, has your ex contacted you, for example? I know loads of people have said to me that, and that's because people are reevaluating and thinking, oh, you know, who was the one that got away? You know, and they start to go through it in their head, and they start to, maybe you're on that list. So let's do a card. I'm going to do a, what should we do? I think, okay, I can't find my cards right now, so I'm going to do a crystal mandala card. And remember that Alana Fairchild, who wrote these, is actually going to come and talk to us all. If you have any questions for Alana, please put them in the comments now, if you don't mind. Because what I'm going to do with Alana is I'm going to do a Zoom interview, just the two of us actually, because that's the only way I know how to do it, and then I'll upload it. All right, so who has a question? So if you've got a question, write it down. I can't see the comments today. I don't know why. What's happening? Oh, my husband just. Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you. He just brought me my moon cards, but I'm going to do the crystal cards today. He's a very good man. I'm very lucky. All thanks to going to India and opening my heart to love. Honestly, changed everything. All right, this is the card. Got a question or you just want general guidance? Here is today's card. I think I've got a weird filter on Facebook today. It's making my face look lopsided because on Instagram I look normal. Anyway, are you ready? Oh, okay, interesting. This is a card that's come up. This is like the third time this card has come up. And yeah, interesting. So it's Ascended Master Mataji, and it's Crimson Cuprite is the crystal, and the card is Relief and Repair. So who remembers getting this card? I've got it twice already on these 1111 messages, and I've also had it once personally. So basically what this card is about it's about relief and repair. And I think it has to be to do with Venus retrograde as well, because we've been talking about Venus retrograde. You know, and Venus retrograde is actually maybe going to be a time for relief and repair. You know, as Venus goes backwards, we're kind of going to get parts of our chart are kind of going to get a second and then a third kind of anointing of Venus love, if you know what I mean. If you know how a retrograde works, the planet, it's what it appears to do in the skies from our vantage point here on Earth. It goes forwards, then it appears to go backwards, and then it goes forwards again as we come out of the retrograde. And you know, in the case, I mean, if it's Saturn doing that, you know, Saturn's a really tough planet. So if Saturn's doing that, it's quite tough. But if it's Venus doing that, it can be quite loving. You know, it's like three swipes across your chart with the Venus, you know, magical dust, for want of a better description. We bring you the blessing of relief and repair. Our warmth and nurturing will restore and rebalance your body, mind, and soul when the light of spirit burns too brightly. I'm going to ask Alana about this card because this card keeps coming up. And, you know, who knew the light of spirit could burn too brightly? But then I also understand it. It's like Shakti or even like Kundalini energy. You know, people report when they have a Kundalini opening, it can be, you know, it can like turn your body to cinders practically. Spiritual light is like the light of the sun. It brings life and joy, but too much can burn. If that happens to you, you will feel overwhelmed, overheated, overexcited, and or overstretched mentally, physically, or emotionally. We will help you receive and increase your ability, recover and increase your ability to be exposed to spiritual light again in future, without becoming overloaded or burnt out. We ask you to soften and relax into our rich red energy, which nurtures you with the cooling, restorative life force of the Earth Mother. We shall help you naturally discharge excess energy while we revive, strengthen, and fortify you with our nourishing grace. The Oracle of Relief and Repair comes with a message about your spiritual growth. And this is for you if you're listening to this, okay? You may or may not be aware of it, but you are learning to call more spiritual light into your body, your mind, and your life. Perhaps you've been praying to the universe more, asking for help. Perhaps you've been meditating more often or reading spiritual books and opening your mind to new levels of consciousness. Or maybe you've been joining me in the daily Kali chanting. Or perhaps your soul has just been growing, even if you don't quite know why it's happening. This is all good. However, your body needs time to adjust to the increase in light. If you just keep going without taking a short break, it would be like continuing to eat and eat and eat without taking the time to digest and eliminate. Although you may be eating very good quality meals, in time, it won't matter. It will just be too much. So there you go. So how about that? Amazing. Kind of amazing. So yeah, there we go. The spiritual light. I'm looking forward to asking Alana about it. So does anybody else, I wish I could see your messages. Now Rising Grateful over on Instagram says, could this be linked to your root chakra or your womb? I mean, yes, because it's red. Yes, it could. All right, look, on that slightly mysterious note, I'm going to leave it there. I'll just say that today I have a meeting with Hay House about my new Moonology course that we were going to record before the lockdown. We're going to record after it. And then tomorrow I have another meeting with them about my new books that I'm going to write and my new cards. So if you have any opinions about the books you want to read or the cards you want to read, please put it in the comments. I read every single one of them. Sometimes there are just too many. Like sometimes there are like 600 comments and I read them all, but I don't like every single one of them. I just give up after a while, especially that's more on the new and full moon broadcasts. But if you have any opinions about books you would like to read, cards you would like me to make, please put it in the comments. I will take it all to Hay House well, today and tomorrow. All right, lots and lots of love. Have a beautiful day.